When great enemies settle their quarrel, some of their enmity will linger on. Is there a way to set things right? The sage abides by the agreement and does not seek to assign blame. People of virtue meet their obligations. Those without virtue exact their claims. The Tao of Heaven does not take sides, yet it always stays with the good. Some of the most difficult challenges to navigate in life are those that have to do with relationships. When you're dealing with relationships, you're not only having to deal with yourself and all your issues, but with a whole other person and all their issues. You have the challenge of having to reconcile two very different worldviews. Even the challenge of understanding the other person's point of view is difficult. Our opinions matter a great deal to us, and we will defend them, sometimes literally to the death. When two people are having a hard time reconciling their opinions, an argument often breaks out. These arguments can continue on perpetually if we do not take steps to resolve them. But even after an argument's resolution, deep-seated resentment can still remain. The Tao sets an example for us of caring for all things, and taking the needs and interests of others as our own. Therefore, Lao Tzu advised, when a resolution is reached, hold up your end of the bargain with exactness, and don't worry too much about what the other person does. As your mom probably told you when you were fighting with your sibling, mind your own business. But Sanjoy, you ask, isn't it my business if someone doesn't hold up their end of a bargain with me? Well, no, it's really not. What is your business? Is everything that affects you your business? Well, if that's the case, then pretty much everything in the world is your business, because pretty much everything that happens, no matter how insignificant, has a long cause and effect chain that will eventually end up affecting you. Oxford Languages defines business as 1. A person's regular occupation, profession, or trade. 2. An activity that someone is engaged in. 3. A person's concern. And 4. Work that has to be done or matters that have to be attended to. Well, obviously, it isn't your occupation or trade to ensure that everything in the world goes to plan. It's also not something that you can realistically expect to be engaged in. You could argue that since everything in the world affects you, then everything in the world is your concern. Well, that may be true, but most of these things lie out of your control, and therefore your being concerned about them offers no benefit to you whatsoever. Whether or not a person chooses to uphold a bargain they have made with you falls under this category of things that affect you, but over which you have no control. You can reason with a person, you can plead with them, you can yell and scream at them, but at the end of the day, you cannot force them to act in your interests. The only thing you have control over in this situation is how you hold up your end of the bargain. Often, when we concern ourselves with treating other people fairly and rightly, we find that we get this in return from them. Nobody likes a person who goes around tallying up all the things that are owed to them. It's not always the case that people will return good for good, and we shouldn't expect that to happen by default. But often, this is the case. At the end of the day, all we can do is our part. Finally, I think this last paragraph is worth noting. The translation we used today says, "The Tao of Heaven does not take sides, yet it always stays with the good." However, the J.H. McDonald translation, which I also appreciate, puts it like this: "The Tao does not choose sides. The good person receives from the Tao because she is on its side." The Tao is not partial. It does not pick favorites. It does not choose whether or not to be on our side. The Tao is neutral. The person who has made up their mind to follow Tao does not benefit from the Tao because the Tao has decided to make them its special favorite. They benefit because they have chosen Tao. The choice of which side to be on does not rest with Tao, but rather with us. When we choose to honor our agreements with others, when we treat others as we would want to treat ourselves, when we take other people's needs as our own, we choose Tao. May we all do this. Thank you for watching, and come hop in my Discord if you want to discuss this kind of stuff further. And I will see you all tomorrow for chapter 80, which, as you probably know, is the second to last chapter of the Tao Te Ching.